Hi, I'm Jack Arnicke, and welcome to another edition of Capital Region Real Estate Today. We're toward the end of summer of 2019, and I thought it was a perfect time to once again speak with Realtor Anthony Gucciardo. Anthony, good to see you again.
Good to see you again, too, Jack.
Thank you very much for reserving this beautiful setting for us.
You're welcome. Glad to have you.
How's 2019 going so far for you?
2019 has been an outstanding year. See a lot of multiple offer situations, especially in the hot markets of the capital region. Houses are taking about 30 to 45 days to sell. If they're on the market longer than that, there's usually a price issue. Some sellers think because the market is so good, they can inflate the list price. Some houses this year did not appraise because of those situations where we were able to find a buyer to pay the price, but the bank said no. Usually what happens in that situation is you have a compromise between the buyer and the seller. But overall, it's been an outstanding year, and sellers have been very happy. We have almost 70 houses set to close by September.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's
Yes.
pretty good. Now, according to the multiple listing statistics, good markets bring out more and more realtors.
Yes.
There are about over 3,000 agents in the area. Good thing, bad thing, combination?
I think it's more of a bad thing, and I'll tell you why. I always encourage sellers to interview 2 or 3 agents, but what's happened now is people have come from other careers where maybe things didn't work out, and you're seeing a lot of people enter the business for the wrong reasons. I came into this business at 16 years old. I worked in high school for Marini Builders at their showcase of homes. It's something that I knew I wanted to do at a young age. So that's one of the things that separates me from my national competition and the national brands is I have wanted to be a realtor since I was a kid and attending open houses when I was a young man. And it's just basically carried me through till I'm almost 40, not quite yet. But when you have too many people in an industry, it sort of waters down the profession. And we're seeing that now where people are not as professional. They're not returning calls. They're not returning text messages. They're uploading the incorrect information in the multiple listing service. So it's imperative as a seller. You know, when you get on an airplane, you want the most experienced pilots. And when you're hiring a real estate professional, you want to go with the guy or the girl who has the most experience and a proven track record.
Does it make that much of a difference, though, if you have an Anthony Gucciardo who's running his own business versus an Anthony Gucciardo who would be with a national firm, for example?
The agent really makes the transaction. I was with other companies when I started,
Right.
national brands, Coldwell Banker, Remax, both outstanding brands. But what happens is agents who have no experience will go to those brands because that's all they can offer. Someone like me who owns multiple homes and is dabbling in real estate all year, not only selling, but with my own properties, you want someone with that experience. So
Right.
someone who comes in and there's nothing wrong with coming into real estate later in life, but when someone comes in who maybe, is renting right now and has never owned a home, it's hard to take that person credible if they're giving you real estate advice when they've actually never owned a home. So we do see that in the industry right now with a lot of people. They're not as experienced as some of the seasoned professionals.
Technology has exploded in all facets of life over the past decade and a half, 2 decades. Why does a consumer want a technologically competent real estate agent?
Some agents, and I think we've improved in the industry a great deal from when I started, but there are still agents who do not take the time to enter listings in the correct format. And that, what happens is that information that's incorrect goes out to the public on all the websites. And technology is very important because there are certain things in the multiple listing service, if you enter incorrect information, that's unfortunately not beneficial to the seller who has hired that agent.
Right.
So whether it's offering drone photography or different, search engines where you're putting listings, whether it be Zillow, Trulia, Google, you want to make sure the information is entered correctly, and you want to make sure that that agent has the most amount of technology at their hands to market your home to as many people as possible.
Okay. Now, when someone calls you to list their home, what is the process? If they talk to you directly, do they deal with you directly through the entire process? Do you push some of the, I shouldn't say push, but do some of your employees, other agents take over some of those properties? What?
All real estate agents are essentially independent contractors. So although I have my own firm, I do have agents who work under my umbrella.
Right.
I would say that 80% of people who call me If you're in with a 15 to 20 minute radius or 15 to 20 mile radius of the service areas that I cover,
Right.
you will deal with me. If you own a 3-family or a 4-family, I have agents in my company who specialize in investment properties. If the properties are in rough shape, I have an agent who specializes in distressed properties. I have a North Country agent who works the Saratoga County market for me. I do work in Saratoga a great deal, but when you get up to Wilton and Gansevoort and Greenfield Center, I have an agent who lives up in that area. Right. So most of the time, if the seller hires me or calls me, I will personally go out to their house and interview with them. And at that point, I will tell them, yes, you'll be dealing with me, or no, you may be dealing with one of my associates. So if you want to deal with me, you certainly have that option. But that, it depends on where the house is. So, bug here, sorry.
That's part of being outside in a beautiful
Yes,
setting.
yes.
What's the hottest area and what's the hottest price point right now?
The hottest markets right now are Latham, Loudonville, Saratoga County. You're seeing multiple offers in those markets. Buyers are paying. I had a house in Loudonville this year. It was listed at $519 and it sold for almost $550,000. We had 4 offers. So same with Saratoga. You do see multiple offers, but again, you have to be very careful as sellers that the appraisal has to pass. The bank has to pass. Has to appraise the house, and if that doesn't happen, you do have an issue.
Okay. Upstate New York real estate contracts have what is known as an attorney approval period.
Very important. I know that when I was growing up, my father always told me, never sign anything without consulting your attorney. In real estate, the contracts are a little different. You have a built-in attorney approval clause. So for example, if you haven't sold a house in 30 years, I'm going to come to your house, I'm going to do a listing contract with you, and then we're going to sell it, say, in 2 weeks. When you go to sign that purchase contract, that contract has a 3 to 5 day window of time in which the sellers and buyers are allowed to sign, but then they get approval by their attorney as to all matters without limitation. That also creates a little bit of a sticky area, because if a seller signs a contract, that contract is not valid until there is attorney approval. That allows a secondary buyer to come in and bump that first offer. Creates a lot of friction in the real estate community. It does happen, but as a real estate professional, my fiduciary duty to that seller is to present any and all offers right up until the closing. So although you may write an offer on a Thursday and that offer gets signed by a seller on a Friday, if there's not attorney approval that Friday and the house is shown during the weekend, Monday morning there could be another offer in my email that I have to present. And if it's a better offer, that seller can accept that offer. It's not that we want to upset people, it's just that's the process. And that's the fiduciary duty a listing agent has to their seller.
So if I'm a buyer, I put in an offer, is there some way that I can make sure the seller actually has his attorney ready to go?
You can have the attorney review it immediately and lock it up, but some agents will put in the contract no showings during attorney approval. Technically, the attorney has to approve that. So even with that clause in the contract, we could still show the property and the seller could accept a higher offer. So,
what would you tell someone right now who has another real estate agent and is unhappy?
This year, more than any other year, and I've been doing this 16 years now, this year more than any other, I have received a lot of calls from brokers, or excuse me, from sellers who are not happy with their brokers. And I always tell people the key ingredient to a successful real estate transaction, one of the reasons I do this show is so sellers have an idea, they can essentially interview me before I even come to their house. But you want to work with like-minded people, and you want to get along with the parties. And sometimes I don't relate to everyone. Maybe people think I'm this or that. But the people who do hire me believe that I am the right person for the job. And it's the same thing. I went on a listing the other day, and the sellers were saying some things to me that were just made me think they were not realistic, and I didn't think it was a good fit. And I'm not the type of real estate agent that wants to take every listing. I want to work with people who want to work with me. Right. And that's important. If you're working with an agent and you don't think that agent has your best interest at heart, or you're having a communication issue, it's probably best to part ways. There's what's known as an unconditional withdrawal form. Most realtors that I know will give the seller a release if they're not working.
And that's with the 6-month binding agreement
Some
and 1 year type.
contracts are 6 months, some are a year. If I think I'm going to sell a house quickly, I'm not looking to lock a seller in for 6 months. I might only do 3 months. But unfortunately, in our industry, we do deal with some sellers and buyers who are not totally realistic with the market, and it makes the transaction extremely difficult. So as I said, and I will reiterate what I said, you want to work with like-minded people who have the same goal in mind.
If a seller accepts a cash deal, what does that really mean? Does that mean there has to be a pot of cash at the closing?
Yeah, very good question. A lot of people think when they receive an offer and it says cash, they're actually going to get cash at the closing. That is not true. You actually get certified funds. So it'll be a certified attorney check or a bank check from a local bank, and those funds can then be deposited into your bank account. But it's not, a cash offer means that there's no financing contingency. Be very careful, because I've had a few sellers this year accept offers that were cash, and it turns out the buyers were refinancing their primary residence to take cash out, and things get tied up. So make sure when you receive a cash offer, you have a proof of funds letter with a current date showing that those funds are available. And I always tell sellers this, even if you don't hire me, folks, get at least a $5,000 or $10,000 deposit. You would not believe how many buyers in the 11th hour decide they don't want to buy a house and they walk away from $1,000 or $2,000.
Right.
Honestly, to sue someone is very expensive. Litigation costs are extremely high. Always get a deposit that shows you that buyer has intentions to move forward with that transaction.
Actually,
I have so many stories I can tell you. Get 5 or 10 in the state of Florida. They get 10%, which is sometimes 30 or 40,000. I think in New York State we have a serious issue where sellers should not be accepting contracts with a $1,000 deposit, because $1,000 doesn't even buy you 2 hours of an attorney's time for litigation.
That's true. There's been ads on TV of late, the past few months, where there's people will say, you don't have to deal with all of this marketing and all this other stuff. Call us, we'll come in, we'll give you an offer, we'll pay you cash, you're done. It sounds quick and easy and convenient, is it?
Here's the thing. When something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So I personally buy houses myself. I buy 2 or 3 a year. These advertisements you're seeing on TV, I see them myself. If the house is worth $180,000, that company is probably going to offer you $140,000, $150,000, maybe even less depending on the condition. So I am not aware of anyone in the capital region that is purchasing a home for full market value. They're purchasing it for probably 20 to 30% less, so that the seller does not have to, so the seller avoids the hassle of showing a property.
Right.
I had a seller this year call me. She was very honest with me. She said, Anthony, I know you buy houses in Latham and all over. I don't want to list with you. I don't want to list with anyone, but we're thinking of selling. Can you come and give me an offer? I said, listen, ma'am, this is what the commission would be if you were to list. I said, your house needs a roof. Your house needs a hot water tank. I need to update the bathrooms. I said, this is my offer. They accepted the offer. They wanted to get out. She said, you know what? I don't want to show my house. I know you buy them. Some people it works for. Some people want to get every nickel for their house, and I respect that. But I always tell someone, if it's taking you 8 or 9 months and you're getting maybe $5,000 more in the 8 months that you paid $1,000 a month in taxes and maintenance and insurance, you're not really making anything. But some sellers are just hard pressed on getting that sale price, or they want to beat their neighbor who sold for $275 and they want $278 because they have a finished basement. So each seller is different, but yeah, I would be very careful with anyone who wants to buy a house. And I always tell my sellers, you understand that you could get more on the open market, and they sign, they understand that. So just make sure you read the fine print.
Okay, and obviously somebody who buys a house like that, like you do, or like those folks on TV do, they have to turn around and make something out of it.
Correct,
too.
They do. And I just went on a listing appointment in Waterford. The lady called me. She said, I have 3 houses to sell. When the lady told me what they were looking for, I politely told them, I said, you know what, folks? Do not sell your house. You're never going to find what you're looking for. You have a beautiful raised ranch. You've updated it. They ended up hiring me to sell the mother's house, but they were going to buy one big house. But when they told me what they were looking for, I realized it doesn't exist. And I said, honestly, keep your house. And they could not have been more thankful for me telling them the truth. Now, most realtors, some realtors, would go in and want to get 3 listings and sell all the houses and find them something.
Sure.
But I realized early on in the transaction, and I tell people all the time, some people shouldn't sell. You know, if you've been in your house 30 or 40 years and you're maybe having trouble with maintaining the lawn or the snow, hire someone, because when you go to downsize, the prices right now that the builders are charging, you're going to be selling a $350,000 house that's 2,500 square feet to pay $350 for 1,600 square feet, be on top of people, and you're not going to be in your home.
Right.
So if someone's moving out of the area, I'm all for helping them, and if someone does want to downsize size-wise, I will help them, but I always tell people the truth in terms of what you're going to get when you're looking, and that's really important.
What's the best way to have a good relationship with a realtor, other than a beer once in a while?
I had a seller a few weeks ago in Loudonville. She called me up. She said, I'm talking to 3 realtors, and she showed me all around her house, and then she said to me, I'm not going to hire a realtor. I'm not going to pay your fee. I just wanted you to show me your house. I wanted to show you my house. And if the buyer wants to see it, they can pay you the fee. That's not a realistic seller. Mm-hmm. Sellers pay the commission in the real estate industry. So getting back to your question, you want to be respectful of the realtor's time, just like I'm respectful of my client's time. I don't come to a house and sit with them for 3 hours talking about what I can do on Google and what I can do with photography. I can pretty much tell you what I can do for you within 30 minutes. So I'm respectful of people's time. When we're showing houses on a Sunday at 3 o'clock, I know there's a lot of realtors and families up at the lake this time of year, but just make sure that you're being loyal to one agent and make sure that you're really serious. Whenever I go on vacation, I have people say, oh, let's go look at open houses. I say, why are we going to waste the poor realtor's time? We're not buying a house. So always be respectful of time, and I know I try that very hard, and I know other realtors in the community try that. Yep. But it's important, as I said, to work with like-minded people and just make sure you understand that we work on a commission basis, and we're not forced to make a sale. We're not trying to pressure people, but we want to make sure we all have the same intentions.
If you list a house and a buyer comes to you directly, is there a conflict of interest? What is dual agency?
Under full disclosure, there is not a conflict of interest. So when a seller hires me, I owe them confidentiality and loyalty. My fiduciary duty is to that seller. Mm-hmm. If a buyer calls me, does not have an agent, a buyer can certainly have representation. Some of the smoothest transactions I have been in have been when the buyer comes to me directly, because we all have the same goal. Seller wants to sell, buyer wants to buy. I want to put the deal together. So as long as we disclose that we owe the buyer fair and honest business dealing and the seller confidentiality and loyalty, dual agency is 100% legal.
Okay. How long are houses taking to sell on the current market, and what is your average compared to the overall average in the area?
My average for the last 15 years has always been about 30 days. Last year we were 36 days on the market. I always tell sellers, if your house is on the market more than 60 days, there's probably a price issue. Not always, but usually there's a price issue. Certain markets like the city of Albany, when you get above 275 in the city of Albany, the houses sit. You have higher taxes and the properties will sit. So sometimes in the city of Albany or other parts of the capital region, you can see 3 to 6 months. But on average in 2019, you're seeing houses go under contract within 30 days.
Wow. That's
which is a great amount of time.
Yeah.
It's quick.
And how much of that do you attribute to the strength of the current economy, the interest rates, all of those things combined?
Interest rates are at all-time lows. The economy is very strong. We're seeing a lot of people buying second homes, a lot of people coming up from downstate buying on Saratoga Lake, which we've represented, a lot of sellers. Lake George is obviously very hot. It's
right.
$1 million lake now. I mean, things go for $3-4 million. But the economy is very strong, and based on the economists I've spoken with and the articles I've read, we believe it'll continue into the fourth quarter to be very strong.
Good. Do you recommend a pre-home inspection?
Yes. In 2019, I think it is great to have a pre-home inspection, primarily due to the fact that any houses above the age of 2 years old have some form of mold. I've said this on previous shows. You've probably read about in the Times Union,
right.
in the newspaper. Mold has become a big issue. If before you list your house, you can take care of any mold, you can call me for a number. Call me 331-3785, area code 518. I will tell you who to hire to come check your attic, to check your basement. Mold is probably the #1 leading cause of killing deals right now.
Right.
Meaning buyers back out. So if you have mold, take care of it before it goes on the market. Get the warranty from the mold company. Disclose it. We won't have any issue to worry about. It's also good for the sellers to check. Sometimes houses don't have GFI outlets, or there's infestation in the attic of some type of termites, or not termites, but pests up in the attic. Yeah. That should be taken care of. So yes, I do recommend having a pre-home inspection.
Other than those particular areas, what are the best places to spend some money to get your house sell ready?
Curb appeal is very important. I go into houses and within 5 or 10 seconds of walking in, I can smell if they have cats or dogs, or or if it's super clean. And it's very important that the front door, the landscaping all looks great. You have some mulch this time of year. If it's winter time, have your sidewalk shoveled. Make sure you don't have any ice dam buildup, stuff like that. Kitchen, master bedrooms, first floor, you want to have extremely neat and clean. You almost want to make it look like you don't live there. You don't have to spend a ton of money. You just have to make sure you get rid of as much clutter as possible.
Is it good to have an apple pie baking?
That absolutely, it helps. I mean, there are some cultures that they cook with spices, and when you walk in, there's an overbearing odor. You really do want to try and get rid of that. And, you know, I have the job as the real estate agent to come in and tell someone, hey, you have a wonderful house, or you have a great house, but you have these little issues we have to address. And it's very hard for a real estate agent like myself to go into a house and tell someone their house smells. But, you know, you're hiring a professional.
Right.
I have to be honest. I have to be transparent. And if I smell pets, or I smell dogs or cats, or I smell, you know, cooking spices,
Or mustiness, yeah.
mustiness in the basement, I do have to let that seller know. And we have to do our best to correct that issue, because if I smell it, the buyers are going to smell it.
Right.
And you don't want to get thousands less over an issue that you can take care of.
We're sort of approaching the end of summer, heading toward fall. Have we, has a seller missed the best time of year?
Absolutely not, especially in the you know, the hot markets of the capital region. If you price a property right, one thing that is we're very fortunate for in the capital region is we have a 12-month-a-year selling season. So I'm not saying things are super busy December 19th, but every January through April, I am always extremely busy. So the summer months are great, but you also have to understand people are going away in the summer, people are planning vacations. But right now, July, August, very busy. It'll slow down probably the last week in August, pick back up about September 15th, right through Thanksgiving, fall off through... It'll be busy probably through December 10th, and then it slows down. You have a lot of people wanting to close before Christmas. I purchased many menorahs and Christmas trees for, you know, clients purchasing around the holidays, and it's very still a very good time to buy. I mean, we're fortunate here because parts of the country, other parts of the country, do not have 12 months of selling season. They have, you know, hot months and then it's dead. So Latham, Loudonville, Colony, Clifton Park, Niskayuna, 12 months a year you can sell a house here.
And is the fact that you say you're very busy January to April, is that a change in the overall real estate market? Because there had always been for years I've heard, you know, January to April, it's snowy, it's icy, people don't look, it's terrible.
No, I have been, for 16 years that I've been doing this, I've had extremely busy winter months. People start looking in the January, plus you're going to beat that spring rush too.
Yeah.
So people who are selling in January, February really want to sell their house. Whereas you see, I had a seller in Niskayuna, he wasn't listed with me, but he got 2 offers on his house and he decided he didn't want to sell. That's perfect proof that so many people who try in the spring are just testing the market and really don't have intentions of moving. And you do see that a lot. People will get cold feet and change their mind. When someone's listing in January or February, you know they're serious. So.
Interesting perspective. What type of house do you generally sell, and is there a certain price point that you particularly like to deal with?
I sell pretty much anything from $80,000 to $800,000. If you look in the Times Union on Sunday, you see the type of clientele that I have. I do have several high-end listings, but as someone who grew up in a raised ranch in Latham, I love raised ranches. I love splits, colonials. Under $350,000 is probably the sweet spot of the market, and that's the market that I deal primarily with. I do deal with higher-end homes in the 5s and Dutch Meadows and Latham. But I'm not a real estate agent that says, oh, I don't do that type of work. It's not me. You know, you look in other parts of the country or on TV in these real estate shows, and the broker will only do one neighborhood. That's not me. I will sell in Schenectady. I will sell in Latham. I will sell in Clifton Park. A real estate transaction to me is a real estate transaction. So I think sometimes people see my billboards and maybe think maybe I'm unapproachable or too busy. Absolutely false. I always answer my phone. I know people will see this and call me now at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, but I do answer my phone still. I'm not one of those brokers that delegates a lot. I do delegate some if it's not an area I'm familiar with, but I do go all over the capital region.
And what about the private home versus the growing number of condos that you see around here now?
Well, condos are definitely popular for people above 55 who are downsizing. I'm also seeing a lot of younger people who purchased condos because they didn't want the maintenance, and now they're selling those condos and buying a single-family home because they want their children to maybe be in a cul-de-sac or in a neighborhood where there's other children. So, yeah, the condo market is definitely on the rise. We also do have a lot of connections in South Florida and the Carolinas, so if you're in Boston as well. So if you're thinking of selling and moving to one of those areas, we can certainly hook you up with an agent down there.
That's interesting too. What about apartments? There seems to be apartments almost like you plant an apartment, put some Miracle Grow on, and you got 1,000 of them. They seem to be going like crazy.
They are
around here.
going like crazy. The developers have been building apartments because there's a lot of luxury apartments in the capital region. Rivers Casino in Schenectady
Yeah,
is beautiful.
yeah.
They've really turned that area around, and you are seeing a lot of people, again, 55 plus. They want to go to Florida in the winter. They want to go to Arizona, and they want to have something up here, but they don't want to be committed to a house. So the apartment works out for them, and that is something we can help viewers with as well.
Is that having an impact on the housing market, though, the private sales, the growth of the number of apartments?
I personally don't believe so. I think people are always going to want to own homes, but there comes a point in life where you want less maintenance and less responsibility, and those people are going to apartments.
Okay.
So I'm not really seeing it impact the single-family market. I own several single-family rentals, and honestly, I can't rent them quick enough. They're always rented.
Are those transient, some of the high-tech folks coming in and out?
It's a mix. You see people who are staying here for a year or two. I get a lot of people who unfortunately get divorced and they don't want to buy a house, but they want to keep their kids in the North Colony School District or Guilderland or Clifton Park, depending on where the property is. But it's a wide array of people that we're seeing renting. It's not just Global Foundries. It's not GE. They come from all walks of life.
What about selling a house with no furniture versus selling a house fully furnished? What works?
It depends on the house. We do offer some staging, and I have a personal stager who will come to the house. I think staging is better for the higher end markets, like parts of Boston and New York City and Miami. I have been able to sell many houses here without furniture, and I've also sold houses fully furnished. So I would say it's on a case-by-case basis. Some of the older houses actually show better with furniture, is where some of the newer houses that have the wide baseboard moldings, they show fine with no furniture, and people can visualize. There's plenty of apps now and internet databases you can go on where you can actually put furniture in the rooms and see. So it works well.
Okay. And how are things going with Anthony Gucciardo?
Things are good. I'm newly engaged.
Congratulations.
Getting married in 2020. So things are very well. The real estate market continues to be very good to me. So I want to thank all the past, present, and future clients. There would not be a me without all of you, so thank you very much for that.
What are the best ways to contact
The best
you?
way to reach me is to call my cell phone directly, which is on the screen, 518-331-3785. That's my personal cell phone. I do not have a secretary that answers my phone, so you'll be reaching me directly. Buyers are always very surprised, and sellers, when they call me and they actually reach me. But I think one of the key ingredient to success is communication. And this phone has allowed me to service my clients 16 hours a day. So it's very important. But you can also go on my website, anthonygucciardo.com, fill out a little questionnaire, and I can email you back or call you back, and we'll certainly help you buy or sell real estate. And thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it.
All right, and I thank you for watching too. Thank you very much for another edition of Capital Region Real Estate Today. I'm Jack Arnicki. Have yourself a wonderful day.